Hi, and thanks for joining us for an informational webinar about dualenroll.com. My name is Janet Van Pelt. I'm the founder and CEO of dualenroll.com, and I wanted to take a minute to tell you a little bit about the system, and then we'll jump straight into the demo. Dualenroll.com is a cloud-based platform. What that means for you is that there's nothing that you need to install or maintain or update. Everybody just accesses the system over the internet, so as long as you have an internet connection, you've done everything you need to do to use the system. The system has modules for students, for the high school, and for the college. Kind of makes sense. And what it really is a configurable workflow engine. So what you'll see in the demo is one example of how the system can be configured, but as part of our implementation process, we sit down with you, we walk through your process, we understand exactly how you would like the system to work, and then we configure the system based on your processes. So the way that you'll see the system work today, not necessarily the way it would work at your college. In fact, probably not the way it would work at your college. But you can get a sense for the different tools that are available and how the system can be used to support a variety of different processes. There are really two main sections to the system, and one of them is fairly new for us. Student registration we've had for a while now. A number of colleges have been using it for several registration cycles. We recently added instructor and course management. We heard from a lot of our customers that the process of managing high school instructors, trying to keep track of people who weren't employees of the college, make sure that they had appropriate credentials to be teaching college courses, and then getting the courses actually approved with coordination between the academic department and the deans that needed to be involved in the approval process and the dual enrollment department and the high school was just a really difficult thing. And so we took our, back to the previous point, configurable workflow engine and built some functionality specific to the internal logistics of managing high school instructors and high school courses. So some of the key benefits of dualenroll.com, it saves you time and money. You get rid of paper forms, you get rid of manual data entry, you don't have to correct all of the errors that happen when people are trying to interpret written forms and type in hundreds of forms within a short period of time during fall registration. And that all allows you to grow your program without having to add staff. The system also generates additional tuition for you. By working with the high school students, automating the permission process, sending them reminders of everything that they're supposed to do, we help more students get through the enrollment process. And every student that gets through the process as a result of that additional support represents additional tuition for your college. We also help students utilize courses that are offered at the college. A lot of times high school students get a printout or some basic information about dual enrollment courses that are being taught at their high school. It's much more difficult for them to have visibility to courses that are available to them if they come to the college. I'm sure you guys have all seen the same research that I have about the benefits of having high school students come to the college campus. And with our system, they can very easily see courses that are available for high school students at your college and search on those courses based on their schedule, and it just makes it really easy for them to come and take courses at the college. And you'll see that in the demo. Dualenroll.com also strengthens your relationship with your high schools. The high school counselors are incredibly busy. They have a lot going on, and anything that you can do to make this process easy for them will help them to be really enthusiastic supporters of your dual enrollment program. We help you ensure that your instructors and your courses are up to the quality standards of your college. I talked about that a minute ago with the instructor credentialing and the course approval process. And last, we provide you with reporting and data. And I can't tell you how many colleges I've talked to where people spend days and weeks trying to piece together compliance reports or other things that they're required to provide from 14 different systems, and the student system doesn't keep track of which high school the students attend, and it's just a really difficult task. With dualenroll.com, all of the data, every single thing about your program is located in one central place. And so it's a very simple matter to create any kinds of reports and generate any kinds of data, any kind of data that you need. We get asked a lot about how we work with the student system, and that's one of the things that's really unique about us. We set up a data exchange with your student system. We don't do a real-time integration because honestly we don't need to, and that's a really difficult and complicated thing, and it makes people kind of nervous. So what we do is we set up something called a secure FTP site, that your student system exports data to the FTP site. Dualenroll.com goes there and picks it up and pulls it in. So for example, all of your courses just get pushed out to the FTP site and then imported into Dualenroll.com automatically through scripts. And then as students register, the process happens in reverse. That registration information gets pushed back to the FTP site, and then there's a script that pulls it into your student system. What's interesting about that, what's nice about that, is the fact that any data that has a home in your student system, anything that your registrar wants to capture, we push through to your student system. And so the student system is always complete, and it's always the system of record for the college. There's a lot of data around high school students that doesn't really have a home in the student system, doesn't really get captured there. And so Dualenroll.com maintains all of the data, the superset of data about your program. We share what is relevant with the student system, but for reporting purposes, we have all of the data. So that's probably enough PowerPointing. I promise to keep that brief. I am going now to show you how the system works. I mentioned that we have 3 modules for high schools, for students, for the high schools, and then for the college. So what we're going to do is actually walk through a registration process for a student. We'll act as each of those entities in sequence. And then once we finish that, I'll change gears and show you how the instructor management and course credentialing works. So now I'm going to start the process of registering for a dual enrollment course as a student. We give each of our customers a unique web address, and then we provide that to the students along with a nice marketing postcard. So the students simply come to that address. They create a new account since it's their first time through the system. So we're going to call this demo and create a password. Pretty standard web account creation stuff. I'm going to guess all of you have done something similar a bunch of times. And I'm going to choose a date that makes me younger than 18 so we can see the parent permission work. And now this is an interesting part of the system and one that people are pretty enthusiastic about. We have the ability to do everything by email, and for the demo I'll do email since I can't really figure out how to show you a cell phone. But we do have the ability to communicate with the students by text message to their cell phone. We figured out pretty early on that high school students view email as old person technology, and they are much more responsive if you can get their attention on that little piece of plastic and electronics that they carry around with them than trying to get them to log into an email account. So this cell phone text messaging is an incredibly effective way to communicate with students. As I said, we're going to use email for the demo because it's feasible for a demo. And I'm going to hopefully prove that I am a human being, not a computer, and hopefully I did all of that correctly. We will see. Yep. So the first thing that's going to happen is that the system is going to send me an email to confirm my account just so that we make sure that we've got the student properly, and that email has already come through. And the student will click on the link in the email. And I should say that all of these emails are just deliberately very brief, not very descriptive emails for the demo. But obviously, when you configure the system, you decide exactly what you want all of those emails to say. So the student comes here, and the first thing they see is an application process. And again, I know I sound like a broken record, but this is just an example of an application, a pretty simple one for purposes of the demo. In a real implementation, what the students would see would be the exact fields that you need to collect from them. And we do all the normal things like drop-downs and data validation. So if someone's trying to type letters into a zip code, we come up and say that doesn't make any sense. So we have the ability already to sort of help you get better data from your students as soon as they start the application process. Whatever your legal terms and conditions are, whatever it is that you need the students to sort of read and sign off on. And then we get to the parent permission. We just very strongly believe that anything that can be done electronically should be done electronically, and we are not big fans at all of people running around collecting pieces of paper and retyping information 2 or 3 times. And one of the places where we've been able to be particularly successful in implementing that philosophy is around parent permissions, which, as I'm sure all of you know, just tends to be a huge bottleneck and a real problem in getting students through the process. So we allow them to just provide us with their parents' email address, and I type it again. Now, we do get the question occasionally of how do you know that that's the parent's email address? There are a couple of answers to that question. The first is you know that that's the parent's email address the same way you know that the scrawl on the bottom of a printed piece of paper is their parent's signature. And then everyone kind of laughs and says, okay, get it. The other thing is that the high schools almost always have the parent's email address, so we can do some validation checking with the high schools. We have had customers think about sending a paper letter to the home of the student, just letting the parents know that the student is signing up for a dual enrollment course as well. Everybody who has looked at it and thought about doing that has decided that it wasn't necessary and that they were kind of comfortable with having the students provide the email, but it is an option that's out there. The other thing I'll point out is that if there's a student who just can't do the permission by email for some reason, and I'm not even sure what that would be, but they have a parent who doesn't have an email account or whatever, they can still submit the permission electronically just by printing it out, getting it signed. They can even take a picture of it with their cell phone and just uploading it, or have it scanned at the high school and upload it. And if there's just no way for them to do any of it electronically, then they can mail in a form, and we tell them exactly where to mail the form and give them the ability to print out the form. But I will tell you that in the low to mid 90% of the time, the students get permission by email, and it's just a really effective and efficient way of handling that piece of the process. So for the demo, we're going to use email. If they know their guidance counselor, they tell us who that is. If they don't, it's not a big deal. And then they go immediately into this course finder. And what we do with this course finder is make it incredibly easy for students to very quickly hone in on courses that are appropriate for them. If the student has a particular area of interest, they can search on keywords, if I typed that correctly, and it will show them courses that are related to that area of interest. If they particularly want to come and take a course on the college campus, then they can also filter and seek only courses that are offered on the college campus. If they have a particular schedule constraint, so let's say I'm a high school senior and my schedule is set up so that I have Monday and Wednesday afternoons free, then I can search for courses that meet on Monday and Wednesday afternoon. I picked too many filtering criteria, and so you'll see that there didn't happen to be any geology courses that meet on Monday and Wednesday, so we'll just get rid of geology as a filter since that was a little bit specific. And now I'm seeing college courses that meet on the college campus on Tuesday and Thursday, and I can set specific times. If I don't have a car and I really need to take only courses that are offered at my high school, then I can see only courses that have a section. I didn't click it. Only courses that have a section taught at my high school. And if you do allow high school students to take online courses, some colleges do, some colleges don't, they can also filter and see online courses if maybe it's summer and they want to take an online course. The other thing that they can do, which is kind of slick, is if they're particularly focused on dual credit. So they want to make sure that they are going to get credit both toward high school graduation and college credit. They can click on this Search by High School Course button, and they see a list of their graduation requirements for high school. And if they click on one of those high school graduation requirements, then we show them the college courses that have been approved by their school district to satisfy that graduation requirement. And so if they choose a course through that method, they know that they're already guaranteed to get both high school and college credit toward that course. Another thing that they can do is, let's say that you've got a student who's thinking about a couple of different courses. They can choose a couple of courses and save them, sort of like a shopping cart. And now when I go into status, I see these are the two courses that I was thinking about taking. And so I don't have to start the process all over again if I leave for a while and then come back in. Maybe I want to go home and discuss it with my parents before I make a decision. So again, we just make it really easy for them to navigate the process of deciding a course that they want to take. And all of that, as I mentioned in the introduction, helps to increase utilization of courses that are offered at the college if your college happens to have high school students who take courses on campus. So I'm going to change to English composition, and I'm going to pick a particular section. And we can filter this down so they're only seeing the current sections. This is demo data, so we tend to have several things in here. And so now what the system is telling me is that I have started the process of registering for English composition. I don't have any highlights, and so there's nothing else that I need to do at this point in time. But it shows me all of the steps in the process and the status of those steps, and I can log back in any time and see where my registration is in the process. So with that, I'm going to log out as the student. And now I am going to log in as the guidance counselor at that student's high school. And you'll see that there's a lot of functionality in the high school and the college modules that I just don't really have time to go through in the demo. I will briefly show you we have these very nice dashboards. Whatever information you think is most relevant, most important to have visual and tracked, we can create in dashboards. And they are active live dashboards with drill down capabilities, and we can also create whatever reports you want. These dashboards happen to be based on demo data, so they tend to look a little funny just because demo data is not necessarily representative of what a real program would look like, but you get the idea. So now I'm going to go in here under Students, and I am going to see a list of all of my students who are in the process of registering for dual enrollment. And the ones that have yellow highlights, I need to do something for, and the rest of them are informational for me. And so what I can do, because as I said, we know the guidance counselors are incredibly busy and we try to make the process really efficient for them, usually there are a couple of different things that the guidance counselors need to do. And so rather than having to go into student by student, they can simply sort based on step. And then they can see the grouping of everything that they need to do under each step. So my first step in this example, and again, the demo is just an example, is I just need to approve the student's enrollment. I need to confirm that they're not on academic probation and that they have the support of the high school to participate in dual enrollment. If I just click on that, then rather than having to go into each student, I see my list of students, and I can very quickly just check yes, 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 no, yes, not sure, come back later. So this batch processing capability exists for all of the different steps in the process and just makes it much quicker and much more efficient for the guidance counselors to process their students. So I'm going to, for purposes of the demo, I'm actually, and you're hearing emails coming into the guidance counselor. I'll show you those in just a minute. For purposes of the demo, I'm going to go back and do this as a student just because I'm only going to do one student for the demo, so it gets harder to find that person in the batch processing. So I've already approved them. My next step is the payment piece. And again, in the demo, we have a relatively simple example, but we have configured this payment screen based on pretty much every configuration I can think of. We've had scholarships, we've had situations where the high school pays for all the courses, in which case this step isn't even necessary. We've had situations where the students always pay, in which case this step isn't necessary. We have situations where the high school district will pay for certain core courses, but if the students want to take courses outside that those narrowly defined course list, then they have to pay for them. Because at this point we are dealing with a specific student in a specific course at a specific high school, then we can be very targeted in terms of what those payment arrangements are on literally a course-by-course basis. We also have had situations where students who were eligible for a free or reduced cost lunch had a different tuition rate or had a tuition waiver, and that the system can also accommodate that. So for purposes of the demo, I'm just going to assume that the student is going to pay so that you can see what that piece looks like. If this were a situation where the school district was going to pay, what would happen is that you would get a report that would show you each student, each section, and the tuition amount for that student. That would serve as a very detailed backup for an invoice to the high school so that you can make sure that you're getting paid for all of the courses that students are taking. So I'm going to complete that step. And then the last thing that the high schools normally need to do, and the system is going to take just a minute to chunk through, is transcripts and test scores. And again, lots of variation and practice here. So we accommodate all of the major test scores pretty easily. If you have your high schools actually key in the test scores here, which most people do, that information now becomes searchable, reportable data. If you just upload the transcripts of the test scores, you certainly can go in and see if a student is qualified, but if you want to go back and run reports or do some sort of data validation and say, reject any student with a GPA less than a 3.0, obviously we can't do that with just an uploaded file, but if you have the guidance counselors take the extra just couple of seconds to type in test scores, then we can, or GPA or test scores, then we can really do a lot with that for you. I'm not going to take the time to type them in for the demo because obviously we won't be doing those reports. So I am going to upload a transcript. I'm going to choose the file, and it is, where is it? Sorry. Actually, I'm doing this the wrong way. I have a new computer that I'm still getting the hang of. I need to look for it here. All right, so now I'm going to choose the file. I'm going to choose the transcript right here. All right, so I'm going to choose a file. So I'm going to choose a file and upload that file. And the same thing for test scores. I'm going to choose a file, and here we go with test scores, and we upload those. Now I have completed that, and you'll notice that it says update profile. If this student is taking more than one course, you don't have to go in and upload the transcript and test scores multiple times. Those are now associated with that student, and so that only has to be done once for each student. And so now the system is going to show me that the next step is for the parent or guardian to provide their permission. I've done everything for that registration that I need to do as the high school guidance counselor. So I'm going to log out. I'm going to go over here to email, and you'll see that the system has been generating a lot of emails to the guidance counselor and to the student. We've confirmed that their account was activated. We have sent a notice to the parent just giving them a heads up that their student has begun the registration process and to be on the lookout for an email for permission. We do that because we find that it helps reduce the number of emails that get accidentally deleted by the parents. And then we send emails to the guidance counselor. Now normally in an implementation, we consolidate these emails so they get one email a day or one email every 3 days with a list of all of the different actions that they need to do. For the demo, that's not really feasible since we're only registering one student for one course. So it looks a little clunky, but the purpose of this really, we know that guidance counselors get busy. They may not think to log into the system, so we make sure that they have an email prompt to go in and process their students in addition to just the system login. We send an email to the student letting them know that we have sent the permission to their parent. Again, a way for them to check in with the parents and say, hey, did you get that email? Did you complete it? And then as the parent, I just need to make sure that I was logged out. As the parent, we send an email and we give them a link to go in and provide permission to for their student to take the course. And so there are two pieces of this process, since in the high school module we said that the student was going to pay for the course. The first is that the parent needs to provide permission, and they can click and see the permission form that they're signing electronically. And again, this is just a demo permission form, but whatever your permission form looks like would be the form that they would see if they open that file. And so now by signing electronically, they give their permission for the student to take the course, and they know exactly how much it's going to cost them at the time they give permission. And then they go ahead and provide payment information. Now, again, I would say in the low to mid 90% of the time, we find that these courses get paid for by credit card. And one of the nice things we do with credit cards is we don't actually charge the credit card at this moment in time, because this student has not been approved by the college yet to be registered. And so we don't want to create a situation where you collect money from somebody and then the student gets further along in the process and their GPA isn't high enough, or they haven't met a prerequisite, or they're on credit hold with the college, and you have to refund that payment. So what we do at this stage is we authorize the credit card. We make sure that it's a valid credit card, and we hold on to enough credit limit to cover the course. And then we wait until the registration has been completely processed and accepted by your student system, and then we charge the credit card. So again, it just avoids creating situations where you're having to do refunds for students. We also have the ability for them to pay by e-check, which is effectively the same as writing a paper check, if they prefer not to use a credit card. So now the parent has done everything that they need to do. They get a nice receipt, and then we provide them with a receipt by email as well. And so I'm going to close out of all of those things. And now I'm going to log in as the college. And you'll see that the college has all the same, dashboards and reports. We also are going to look in a few minutes at these instructor and curriculum alignment review tabs, so I won't worry about those right now. Let's go ahead and finish processing this student's registration. So here's Janet Van Pelt, and the first thing that I'm going to do as the college is review the forms that have been submitted. In the demo, we've broken this into a couple of steps because a lot of our customers use Grad Assistants to just review the transcripts and test scores and make sure that they fall within certain parameters, and then they have somebody else go through and do a final sign-off. That's just the way the demo is set up. It doesn't have to work that way. This can be one step, it can be 3 steps, just depending on what your internal approval process looks like. If I want to see the transcript, I just go in and I see the file that we have uploaded. So nobody is chasing down paper transcripts or carrying big piles of paper or folders around campus. Everything is just associated with the student and the registration. So I'm going to say that I've reviewed the transcripts and the test scores. And in this case, I'm going to say that, yes, they're all fine. Now, if I look at them and they're not fine, if there's a problem with the transcript, for example, let's say that the guidance counselor was having a bad day and they put it in the scanner face up instead of face down, or face down instead of face up, and what I got was several blank pieces of paper. All I do is I check no here instead of yes. I type in the box the transcript was blank, and the system is going to do 2 things. First of all, it will kick off an email to the guidance counselor, and whatever I typed in that box will be included in the body of the email. So very easy for me to communicate back to the guidance counselor that there was a problem with the transcript. And the second thing that will happen is the system will reset that transcript step. So instead of showing it as being completed, it will go back to being an active required step and back into the yellow highlighted section so the guidance counselor can see that this is a transcript they need to resubmit. You don't want to watch me do all that again, so I'm going to say yes for purposes of the demo. And so usually the system processes for a minute. And now we're going to do the final sign-off on this student. And so now I'm a staff member at the college, and I've looked at the student, looked at all of the files, and the student meets our criteria for participating in dual enrollment. And again, if that was not the case, I click no here, and I type in the box the student doesn't have a sufficiently high GPA to participate in the program, and that gets communicated back to the guidance counselor. So we will complete the registration for this student, and you'll now see down here it's processing, and then it's going to show the registration complete. What happens at this point is that that registration information is sent to your student system. Your student system processes it just like it would process a registration that somebody sat down and typed in at a keyboard. Prerequisite checking is done by the student system. We made a very deliberate decision that we do not want to try to duplicate the functionality that you've all invested a lot of time in getting your student system just perfectly tuned on that point. So we just rely on the student system for that. So just like somebody sat down at a keyboard and tried to register for a course that they hadn't met a prerequisite for, the student system will kick that back out. It sends us an error message that tells us that there's a prerequisite that has not been met, and then we provide that notification back to the student and the guidance counselor. Similar thing if they're on a credit hold or something. The student system rejects the registration, and there's a code that goes along with that that gives us the reason for the rejection, and then we convey that information. It happens very rarely, but people do ask, so I usually explain how that works. The vast majority of the time the registrations are fine, and they go through, and the student is registered. And now you'll see that a couple more emails have been generated. The parents got an email receipt, which they may need for tax records or other reasons, and the student got a confirmation that they have in fact been registered for their course. And again, anything that you want to communicate to the student at that point can be included in this email. We just have some sort of basic text in here and some information about the course. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to delete those emails to clean up that email account. And we are going to change gears and talk about the process of credentialing instructors and the process of approving instructors to teach specific courses. So you'll see that we have here a list of all of the instructors. You'll see as we go through the process the information that will be collected for all of them. So let's say that a principal at one of my high schools has contacted me and they're interested in adding a course to be taught at the high school, or a high school teacher has contacted me and would like to teach a dual enrollment course for the college. How do I manage the process of deciding if that's an acceptable proposal or not? So I'm going to start by adding a new instructor. All I really need is, let's see, what name do I want to use for this person? Let's call it Pete Jones. I'm not feeling particularly creative today. And really all I need is his email address. So I'm going to type that in. And then I just click this Request Credentials button. And now the system is going to send, oh, I always forget about that. Let me do this. Okay, I'll use this email account instead. And the system is going to generate a request to Pete Jones to provide us with the information that will allow us to determine whether he's qualified to teach courses at our college or not. And sometimes if the internet is slow and I give it a little boost, it gets its job done a little bit more quickly. So you'll see now the status for that instructor is that we're waiting on him to create an account. So I go over here to this email account, and check email, and the system has indeed generated an email to Pete Jones. And again, this email can say whatever you would like it to say. Normally they're a good bit more informative than this one for the demo, explaining that this is the way that we initiate the process for them to potentially teach courses for the college. If I'm logged in, the system goes back to my login, and sometimes I forget to log out since I'm acting as so many different people, so sorry for that. So Pete Jones is now going to create an account, very simple process here, not even the full account creation that we had before. Login as Pete Jones, I got to remember that. And so now he is going to provide all of his personal information. So, 931, Ariston, I'm just making stuff up. But whatever information, and we can make any of these fields required. The alternate email is a pretty good one because a lot of times high school teachers don't check their high school email during the summer, so making sure that you have an alternate email for them makes it a lot easier to manage the process. I'm not going to sit here and type all those in, but you get the gist of it. And then Pete Jones is going to tell us what his educational background is. So he's going to first of all tell us what degrees he has. Let's say he has a bachelor's degree from, I don't know, Portland Community College. Actually, that doesn't make any sense. Oregon State University, and it is a BS degree. I can't type. And he has a major in biology and a minor in English. And he earned that degree in 1976, we'll just say. And now we have a master's degree, and that is from, let's just call it Georgia Tech. And it is a Master of Science, and the major is in, call it biology again, just because I'm not feeling all that creative. And that was awarded in, let's call it 1981. And then if there were any additional things that he had done that he thought were relevant to his qualifications to teach, he can include those as well. So, maybe he's taken a continuing education program from Portland. Thinking of recent names, and it's called, Teaching Science in High School. And maybe he took that course in 2009. So anything that he thinks is relevant to his credentials, he can provide here for you to look at. So now once that's finished, we're not going to take anybody's word for their credentials. So the next thing that happens is that he is going to upload his transcript and documentation, just as we did for the students, to validate that he does in fact have the credentials that he indicated on the previous screen. And so now that is done. And you'll see here that the system will let him know that the next step now is for somebody at the college to review his credentials. And I actually don't need to wait for that to finish because it will finish while I'm logging back in. So I am now logging back in as the college. I go into my instructors, and I see that I have Pete Jones. I need to review his credentials. I click. I have all of his documentation. I can see all of his degrees, and I look at his transcript. And yes, he meets the qualifications to teach a course for our institution. No, he does not. He only has a bachelor's degree, or he has a master's in education, but not a subject-specific master's, or whatever it is that's not sufficient. Or I can't tell from what he provided, and I, again, in the box, ask him for additional information, let him know what I need to make that determination. So I'm going to complete that step. And so now we have added Pete Jones as a credentialed instructor, but we don't know yet which courses he is qualified to teach. Somebody who's qualified to teach English 101 might not be qualified to teach, Biology 200, and so we need to now do a specific review of a course that he would teach for our college. And again, this is all just set up as a demo. We have done this a million different ways, and everybody has a different process that they go through. So this just gives you an example of how it can be configured. But obviously, this would be configured to match the way that you guys approve courses, as opposed to being kind of hard-coded this way. So I'm going to start by going into a course, and let's say that I want to add a biology course at one of my high schools. So I go into biology, I click on curriculum alignment, and I want to start a new curriculum alignment. I want to add a course. So what normally happens is that there's a reviewer on the academic side who is assigned to work with the high school instructor and make sure that the course is being taught in a way that's acceptable to the college. And then the instructor is the high school instructor. Let's say they're going to do this in fall of 2014. And sometimes different academic departments will have a different process that they want to use. If that's the case, then we can set up those different processes. So this could say, the English process, the science process, the math process, depending on whether there were differences in the way that those departments handled their course approvals. So I'm going to create this new curriculum review. I come over here, and I see that indeed I have a new curriculum review between Pete Jones and William Burns, and the first step in that review is for William Burns to have an initial planning meeting with Pete Jones. So I'm going to log in as William Burns, if I can type. And similar to what you've seen before, we also can generate emails to the reviewers because they may not have any reason to log into the system on a daily basis. So we can let them know when there's a new review for them and provide them with a link. So again, this is just a sample of a process. So for this particular example school, they have a checklist that they want filled out. You can click here and access the checklist. So open a Word document, fill out the checklist, save the Word document, and then upload that document. In this case, it is the planning meeting checklist. So I'm going to go here and find my initial planning meeting checklist, upload that file. You've seen this process a number of times by now. And then as the reviewer, I'm going to give an indication of whether I think we should move forward with this instructor. So yes, we had a good conversation. I think he really understands what's involved in teaching a college course, and so I think we should proceed. No, this guy is a train wreck. We don't want him anywhere near one of our college courses, and then I can provide details about that if I am so inclined. So I complete that step. And then the system is going to process for a minute, and it shows me that the next step is for the instructor to upload their documents. Often that is a syllabus. We find that there's often a reference syllabus for a course, and so we attach that to the course, and anybody who has access can download that reference syllabus. So that's really helpful for your high school teachers. They can easily get a syllabus for the course. But sometimes there are differences in the way that they're going to teach the course at the high school. Maybe a course is taught in a semester at the college, but they're going to teach it over a full year at the high school. And so that we have the ability also for them to create a syllabus that is specific to their section and then upload that and associate it with the sections that that particular instructor is going to teach. So from a documentation and a credentialing standpoint, and getting your accreditors comfortable, you have a very strong paper trail in terms of this is the syllabus for the course, this is the syllabus for this specific section being taught in the high school, and the specific syllabus that that high school instructor is going to teach out of has been carefully reviewed and is up to the quality standards of our college. So I'll log in really quickly as Pete Jones. I'm going to upload that document. You've seen all this before, so I'm going to buzz through it kind of quickly. Click here to upload the file. It's going to be my final course syllabus. I'm going to choose that file, which is there, and upload it. And then the last step is going to be for my reviewer to review that syllabus. So I'll very quickly log in as the faculty mentor. Look at the, I'm sorry, I didn't complete the step. I attached the file, but I did not complete the step, and so the system does not know that I was done. So now I will log out and log back in as the reviewer. And now it's got my active step to review that curriculum. So I can go in, I can look at the syllabus that the instructor has provided for this specific course, make sure that I agree with it, make sure that it is substantially similar to the way the course is taught at the college, check that I have reviewed it. This particular process, again, there's actually a, whoops, sorry, I clicked on the wrong button. There's actually a checklist that they want to have completed. So I'm going to open that file as a Word doc. I'm going to fill out the form. I'm going to save that document, and then I'm going to attach it. So again, the college has a complete record of all of the different review steps that have been done to ensure that the course is up to the quality standards of the college. And again, the same process. Yes, if it's good. If I don't believe it's a course that's going to meet our standards, I say no. And if I need more information, then I send that back to the instructor so that they can clarify whatever it is that I am not comfortable or clear about. So I complete that step. Now, the reviewer is done and the instructor is done, but the college now has to do their piece. So I'm going to log in as the college. I'm going to go in here under the curriculum reviews, and it's going to show me, and again, in this particular process, once the reviewer on the academic side has signed off, we also require approval from a dean. So I'm just going to call that April Dean and use my demo address. And so now we know that the odds of getting a dean to sign into the system are somewhere between slim and none. So that dean will just get an email address, or not an email address, but an email asking them to approve the course. And I forgot again to log out, so let me make sure that I do that. And so the dean now clicks on this link in their email, and similar to what the parents saw, they see all of the information about the course. They have easy access to all of the documents. So again, nobody is carrying paper syllabuses around campus. All the things are just very nicely attached to the particular course and instructor. So they can review all these documents and then sign off on the course, or not sign off on the course if there's something that they see that gives them pause, and they can indicate where their areas of concern are. And go through that iteration until everybody's comfortable. And then the one last step is normally once I'm signing in as the college again, normally once a course and an instructor have been approved, there are some things that need to happen on an ongoing basis. And so we give you the ability to manage those upcoming requirements. So let's say that you require a site visit and you need it once a year, so it needs to happen by June of 2015, and that is an annual event every year. And so now we're going to set that up. And let's say that there's also a department meeting that all of your high school instructors are required to attend, and that happens in September. And so that's also an annual requirement every year. So we set that up. Now what's nice about this is a couple of things. One is that obviously you capture all these requirements for your high school instructors in one central organized place, all of this information is searchable and reportable. So very easy to say, give me a report of every high school instructor who is due for a site visit within the next 3 months, or give me a list of all of the high school instructors who did not attend their department meeting. And in that vein, if somebody actually goes to the department meeting, you can just go in here, indicate the date they completed it, and then it will show up as their completed requirements as opposed to upcoming requirements. And then when we get to next year, that department meeting for next year will pop up again as an upcoming requirement because it was set up as an annual event. So that is the process for managing high school instructors and getting courses approved and making sure that those courses comply with the college's processes. I hope this has been helpful. I would love to chat with you further. My email address is jvanpelt, V as in Victor, A-N, P as in Paul, E-L-T, @dualenroll.com. So feel free to email me with any questions or anything that I didn't explain very clearly, and I would welcome an opportunity to speak with you.